Okay, the model we're going to start with was designed in NetLogo 6.1. However, it seems to work absolutely fine in 6.2, so I suggest you download 6.2. I've already got it downloaded, but if you just search NetLogo on the web, you won't be long finding this site. Okay, there are local versions, and then there's a web version. So go for the local version. If we, for any reason later on, we find that 6.2 has some clash with the program, we'll go back to 6.11. But for now, I just suggest you download this one here. You might as well go to source. I can upload it to our site, but there's no reason. Or what I will do is I'll just put that that site there, so you can click here once you're in our website. Okay, now the code we're going to be using is publicly available. Nevertheless, I'm going to drop a copy of it again onto our site. Where have I got it? I've got it in downloads. Okay. So should be a small enough model, and that'll be a zip. It's just sitting here. It doesn't look like anything, but that's a zip you can download there. Okay, now let's run it and see how we get on. I've unzipped it here, and it brings in a map of Argentina, but we'll be switching this to Ireland, and we'll be looking at how we can cater for the demographics, like the centres, cities, which are Cork, Limerick, Dublin, and so on, and spread the population with a realistic distribution that matches reality, of course. Okay, so when I double click it, it's just loading up off screen. And it will open in the latest version unless you ask it to do otherwise. So it's open now in 6.2. Here's the code. Okay, it's modular, so you call on these different. So this particular module is called gather in food shops and so on, and you can call the different ones. Then you have globals. Human zone will be, once you're a human, there'll be thousands of humans involved in Arctic code. They're called turtles. You'll get used to that. But each one has an infected value, yes or no, how long they've been infected, they have an age group, and so on. Very interesting things that are going on here. Are they aware of the infection? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Patches will be how we divide up the country once we get a map of the country, an original map. So we'll look at that and look at how we can change that for Ireland. Reporting. This is some module that gets called, and then a human procedure, and we need to study this. But at the same time, if you wanted to look at it at a different level, you can look at the information surrounding the model. Okay, and just do Control plus 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 there to see that at whatever, okay, well, depending on what you're comfortable with and how much detail you want. Okay, study that. Now the interface is where it all happens. We can open down, shut down and open schools. We can talk about lots of different things, chance of severe infection. We can take into account new variants by changing the chance of death, chance of infection. The population is more. We can be in Ireland. We've a young population, so let me exaggerate that and say we've loads of 10 to 19-year-olds. Now that'll be exaggerated, but we can set that realistically to Irish demographics, which can be easily looked up online. Okay. Make sure all your graphs are turned on. and prioritize the elderly, and many, many other things. You can set up your world. So here we will be putting in a map of Ireland, and we will be restricting ourselves to regions within Ireland. And what they've done is they've a few infected people here in red. 5 infected people, I think it is. And now I've already set up, if I do it again, it'll just redistribute where those red dots go. And go basically means let life begin. Okay? And people go about their business and they infect each other and so on. And we start to slowly see graphs over here. Okay? So actions and orders coming from the government, actions maybe recommendations, and you can turn on lockdown whenever things get really bad. We can turn on lockdown. We can turn on partial lockdown. We can change the social distancing between people. Okay. Somewhere we speed up. Okay. Now when you speed it up, you're basically trying to run it as fast as your processor would allow. Okay, and that should get us our graphs. Hitting what's called steady state. If there is a steady state, there should be a steady state reached at some stage. It'll probably peak, it'll probably come back down again, and then it'll reach steady state. Okay, if vaccination doesn't come along or something else. But it does depend, of course, heavily on all these interventions. So you have medical parameters, you have social interaction parameters. You'll be best now getting this running yourself and running it. Easy, you could do something drastic here, like chance of infection for, just pick on some decade, 40 to 49-year-olds. And by the way, this is live, so if I do that, we'll see the 40 to 49-year-olds suffer within the next few months. A month is one click. So basically, and you can check where we are now. You've got infection rate. You can check how many months have gone by. It's probably up here as a counter. 18 days have gone by since I started. Now we're on 19th day. And whatever I've done, I've created a reproduction of number of, and you'll see that's dynamic too, but it's up around 4, so it's pretty bad. Okay, that's just because I've toyed around with this stuff here. I've chance of infection of 40-year-olds is nearly at 100%. Okay, we'll turn that back down again. So I think you get the idea. Obviously, it hasn't run full cycle. And I'll just say there are other things. I just want to show you one other thing. I think it's called behavior. Here it is with the behavior space. From here, you can create a whole set of reruns of experiments. And you can get them to run with different parameters set. Or you can just get it to run several times, because there is actually, believe it or not, quite a bit of variety just between runs, just like there would be if you were tossing a coin. So what happens in a country isn't predetermined by the settings. There's actually still an element of randomness and chance involved. Even when settings like these, which you could call determined or explicitly set in a deterministic sense, once they're set, there's still variety going on. It looks like these bars are, for some reason, a central population or something. Okay, so behavior space, we may or may not use it. It'll certainly generate a lot of data, because this is probably going to peak and come back down again, and then once it's reached a steady state, then you could decide to run that several times to get a lot of data. That's about it. So you're best off setting this up, starting to play around with it. You'll see that the whole interface is changeable. You can move things around, but it's probably you can change the size of this. But these things are just very superficial. Like if I could change the graph and the size of the map, and it wouldn't make any difference to the outcome. It's the hard data behind it that counts. Okay, I'm going to close it up with that. That's a 10-minute intro video. And if you can get this program running and start trialing with it and start looking at the code and understanding, it's not complicated. Seeing how it works. You have the potential to do extremely well with this. Now, the output we're looking for is just a short 5 or 10 minute video. You won't be writing an academic report, but then again, it's no harm in doing, you know, there's a lot behind planning a report, you know, having some specific findings maybe that seem to add value compared to what maybe the government are doing would be great. So I'm going to shut it at that. You just need to open this, load NetLogo 6.2, and then open this file, which is, as I said, I've already dropped it up onto the site that I'll be sending you a link to. Okay, best of luck with that.